Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Marie and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
All right, welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I'm here with Dan Greenberg, a longtime CrossFit Bison member who just took on his first ever Hyrox race. And unlike last week when we had Ashley and Karen on, Dan did this by himself. And I think it's a completely different experience doing it solo versus doing it with partners. I'm not going to say easier or harder, although it is more work to do it individual. I do want to talk about the difference in experience, but Dan G, how are you, my man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's awesome. Dan is a very experienced CrossFitter. He's also pound for pound one of the strongest dudes I know, especially with the squat. And he has a brazen background. We had Christy on a few weeks ago, and we all know how much they lift weights. And Dan's one of their early members. Were you only with them back in Hoboken?
Yeah, I started when I was 29, was in decent shape, I felt like, but, wanted to be in better shape in my 30s than I was in my 20s.
Yep.
So Big J told me I had the worst squat he's ever seen, knees caving in, wasn't squatting my body weight initially. But yeah, found it, fell in love quickly, got really strong really quick. It was fun.
You did. I mean, there's probably something in you genetically because you are just you are what most people want is you're actually stronger than you look, right? You don't come in all of a sudden, Dan, you turn around, Dan squatting 400 pounds. You're like, wow, at that body weight, it's really rare to do. And when you're light and strong with a barbell, in CrossFit, you can do a lot of things at a high level because Dan's a great runner, obviously Hyrox. He's a great gymnast, the muscle-ups, the handstand push-ups. He can get through a lot of workouts because he has a very good aerobic system, but you put a barbell on his back, like a lot of the people that are good at gymnastics and running, they can't squat 400 pounds the way Dan did. So, but Dan, before we get into your experience, I actually want to talk about something that's just equally as inspiring to me and to many others as well, is you suffered a pretty gruesome back injury a few years ago. And to me, from my perspective, it looks like you're back full bore. Like, do you feel that way?
I probably don't max out where I used to, and I try not to lift with as much ego as I used to.
Okay.
But it's being able to turn your your animal brain off when you're not feeling 100%. So I was lifting like a jerk. Instead of like taking 2 weeks off and letting it heal, I turned probably a bulging disc and pounded it into a herniated disc. So it took about a year from the time I injured, therapy, epidural, surgery, recovery before I was back.
So you went full bore surgery on it.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, I felt better the same day. I would have done it sooner, but you've got to do all the conservative measures of like epidurals, therapy before you'll even get to the point where you can do surgery. But don't recommend like blowing your back out. If you do, and you have thoughts around surgery, I was a big fan of that. I'm glad I did it.
Awesome. And I think you're just a pretty disciplined person in general. And I think people that have good discipline that applies to outside the gym, you can recover. And I think that's a big part of any time people get injured, especially in a serious manner when you go under the knife like that. It is very possible to get back to where you want to be, 80%, 90%, and just make responsible decisions from there on out. But that recovery process takes a lot of discipline, doing a lot of things you don't want to do, monotonous things, and not trying to skip steps just so that you can get back into the gym. That's something I always really respect about you and Matt Aquino. Both you guys have had the back surgeries, and I had you guys in the same class doing one of the open workouts this year. And I just remember watching the two of you just crushed workouts. And I'm like, wow, like this is an example that I think we really need to get out there. So maybe for another time, we'll see how you do today in today's podcast.
Well, you're goosing me up pretty good. I'd love to come back.
Yeah. So let's talk about Hyrox because Dan, when did you sign up for this and why? Why did you want to take this on?
I think I saw you did it down in Texas.
In Dallas,
with your brother. Talked to you afterwards. You were a fan of that, would do it again. Obviously, Alondra is like the fittest person I think I've ever met.
Seriously, so accomplished.
Big runner. I feel like I'm a okay runner.
Very good runner. I'll say it. Very good runner.
And I think she posted on the Facebook group that it was coming to New York. Sign up quickly. It sells out quickly. So I was like, oh, whatever, I'll just do it.
So spontaneous, like, hey, I'm going to do it. That's awesome. Now, did you train specifically for it? Was it something that you were, hey, I'm going to train and show up day of because you are fit and capable of doing that? Or is it, hey, I want to have something in my scope to train for, add a little bit of fuel to the fire?
I was pretty confident that everything that we do at Bison would position me for the inside stuff. So like we row all the time, like lunges weren't going to be a problem.
Yep.
Burpees are not fun. You get through them. Wall balls are a good movement for me.
Yep.
So a little bit of like the training on the sled pull and push.
Mhm.
That actually was the sled pull was the hardest movement, I thought.
Okay.
I might have done an extra round there. It was definitely my worst timed inside movement. Check the tape on that one. But I'm not a great distance runner. That was actually interesting with the back injury story, is that the one thing I could do for a couple months, you're not supposed to lift anything heavier than a jug of milk, which was tough with a toddler and a second one on the way. But I did a lot of running,
Mhm.
and that was an okay recovery. So I got into it a little bit like that, but had never run, the equivalent of 5 miles in a single shot. That actually turned out to be the easier part of the race.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how when you look at the total sum of running, it's a lot
Yeah.
for what we do. And I'm not sure if you're a guy that goes for like a Sunday run, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles, but breaking it up into 1,000-meter runs where it's kind of, you're almost programmed to do that. Like CrossFitters are very good at doing a lot of different things back to back to back, where a marathon runner might really struggle to go into a mixed modal presence like that. When it comes to the running, you said it was easier, right? I'm looking at your split times, pretty consistent, 4:57, 4:54, 5:07, 5:13, 5:28, 5:29, 5:32. And then the last one shouldn't really count, 7:15, because it had the extra 200 meters in it. So you were right around 5 minutes to 5:20 for almost the entire thing, which means you were pretty well paced throughout.
Yeah, for the non-meter people, it was roughly like an 8-minute mile pace.
Okay, good. I wouldn't be able to do that math real quick. So that's a solid. If you were to go back and do it again, let me ask you this first. Did you go into it with more, less experience? Let's do the experience. Let's get a good day of working out in. Or was it, hey, I'm going to try to, I have a competitive goal here?
It was just, I'm going to do it.
Okay.
And getting back to the training for a second, like the time was actually really ideal. It was Murph.
Yeah,
was
right.
the week before.
It's a good point.
And I'm like, if I train for Murph like I normally do,
Weighted vest,
arm partition, like what is Murph? It's running, pulling, pushing, squatting, running.
Yeah.
What's
That's a great point.
Hyrox? Running, pushing, pulling, squatting,
Yeah.
running more.
Movement patterns. That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I knew that the body weight / running was good training for the people that were doing it. It was more coincidental. I don't think Hyrox does that with any sort of Murph mindset in them, but you did see some people that were nervous to do Murph the week of Hyrox. Did you do it on the week of?
I did, yeah. I did it on partition. I was still feeling the lats a little bit,
Okay.
which kind of hurt me, I think, on the ski and
maybe the sled pull. Yeah. Okay, so if you were to go back and do it again, would you not do Murph, or would you do it maybe, some people do Murph like the weekend before, like 2-3 days before, or is it again, Dave, I don't really care because I was doing it for the experience?
Yeah, I don't really care. I do it the same way.
So will you do this again? And we'll talk about where you're at future-wise, but you did it individual. Were you glad you did it individual? Because most of the people from Bison did it with a team, and I've competed individually and as a team before. I always say team is more fun. Individual is more like, hey, this is a challenge. I got to do this by myself. Did you even consider going for a partner? You're like, no, I want to do this by myself first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of introverted anyway,
Yeah.
and I was cool doing it by myself.
Yeah.
And like logistic stuff, it's hard with kids and
It is.
families and to get everybody on the same page. I was like, I'll do it. I'll do it at my own pace. It'll be good.
Would you have trained differently if you got to go back and do it again? And again, I know we're going to keep circling back to Dave. I'm just doing this for experience. I'm fit enough to do it. Is there anything you wish you did a little bit more of?
Probably the stuff I don't do quite as much. The sled pull, yeah. So I was like pulling it. I wasn't using my legs as much. I think some of the other people that had
Squatting. Yeah.
There's probably a technique to the burpee broad jumps that I wasn't doing. I did a few extra than because I wasn't jumping very far.
Right.
And there's a sort of a ramp up and cycle to it. Like, I don't know if you felt like this in the doubles, but the ski was first, the push, those two felt reasonably easy.
Complementary to the run.
Yeah, the sled pull the burpees and the row were probably the most challenging part, right in the middle.
Mhm.
And then I felt the farmer carry, the lunges, and the wall balls were my favorite thing.
Yeah, it definitely compounds, and like I want to say I'm logistically very impressed with the operation there, but also I think the programming is set up correctly in terms of the order. Like
Right.
it's a little bit of a gauntlet towards the end. Like it keeps people in the game for the first 4 to 5 stations.
I felt like I was able to catch up towards the end. Like you go in
Yes.
these little pods,
Yeah.
like 20 people at a time.
Yeah. And you're very lower body, like that is your strength.
Yeah.
And you're a good runner. And I also think anyone can get through the first half hour.
Yeah.
Right. And then it goes to show it's like, all right, where are the differences here? Did you start to cramp up at all? Did you start to look into your workouts, not your workouts, more like your nutrition and hydration leading up to, and like, oh shoot, I should have done this.
It's interesting. I don't know how much you use like AI or ChatGPT or anything.
Not as much as I should.
So here, like I've been using it at work. It helps a lot with like writing emails and that
Yep.
kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I said, hey, I'm doing Hyrox. This is what I'm thinking about. Here's when I start. Here's when I'm going to wake up. Here's what I'm thinking about in terms of carbs, fat, and protein, hydration. Like, is this a good plan? Are there any tweaks that you would make? And it was like, I put in the stuff that I'm using and it's like, this is a good plan.
Okay.
Like, you want to make sure that you're having like, like took a honey packet right before I started in terms of quick carbs.
That's huge.
I probably would have had a gel pack or something.
Yeah, you said that to me a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, to take like halfway through.
So offer some thoughts on that, because I think that's important for people to know.
So they do a great job. You can't bring your own like water. And they have water, and I think they have like the Hyrox, branded hydration stuff.
Yeah.
But I would have needed like a quick carb, like I don't know, you're not running around with a banana in your pocket, but like some sort of like gummy or like gel or quick carb, like halfway through, I think would have helped.
Yeah, those are big now. I see these like triathletes kind of pull something out of their sports bra or their shorts, and it's just a quick, like just basically sugar that you could just put in yours. Did you start to feel like you were running out of fuel, or were you cramping up at all?
It's funny. I cramp up on, so if I do Murph with a vest unpartitioned, like the squats are where it gets me. And
Quads?
Quads.
Okay.
Yeah. And same thing happened on the lunges. So like if I would straighten my legs, both like legs would lock up. So I had to like
terrible feel.
I had to do like maybe like a 90% like lockout, not a full lockout.
Well, that's more than most people that show up there. Some of those lunges are complete jokes, but again, I mean, you're gonna see it's not a Hyrox problem. I think it's a people problem, because you see that in CrossFit as well. Yeah. Now, did you have any time management, pain management issues leading up to, because you're a working professional, you have a young family, you can't make training the priority for this, because especially training for this, if you're really going to train for Hyrox, you got to train for an hour to 2 hours often, in addition to some of your CrossFit type work. Did you struggle with that at all? Because again, there's a lot of people in our area of life, 30s, 40s, young families, jobs. Did you stress out about that at all, or was like, hey, dude, I'm fit enough, I can just do what I can when I can?
More the latter. I mean, we had a good Sunday morning crew.
Yeah.
Ash organized that. It was Karen, Brittany, Katie, a few others. And that was mostly just to get the running in. Yep. And so I was confident with the other stuff that I'd be able to do wall balls, lunges, like, we do enough right here.
I hear all the time, don't worry.
Yeah. So I feel confident about all that part of it.
Any pain management issues in the training?
Slightly funny story. So I work in New York.
Yeah.
They had I did it Friday. They had an early registration in Midtown. So I was like, oh, I'll walk there. I was wearing my work shoes. It's like a 1.5 mile walk there. Walking back, and I'm like, I'm starting to get blisters on the bottom of my feet. 2 days before the race, I was like, you idiot. You should just like take the subway.
Registration for the day of the race. So this is the week of.
Oh, this is like Wednesday. I was like, I'll just walk there. There's no like direct subway. It's gonna be easy. And then I was like, you idiot, you're gonna get blisters on the bottom of your feet before you run 5 miles.
What was your footwear like?
I used ChatGPT. I'm like, here's like some of the brands I like. This is what like Hyrox requires. Like, here's a few options. Like, what do you think? And
okay. What did it end up being for you?
It's a company called Mount the Coast.
Okay.
Like the running shoes, I got like wide feet, and they like had a wide toe box. It was like balancing stability, running,
Extra cushioning.
Yeah, a little bit.
Did that impact your ability to lunge at all, squat at all? I heard a few feedback from people that did this.
Not really. The only trying to think.
Some people said they were falling off balance left and right because some of these running shoes now, it's crazy with it. They look like the old school like Spice Girl platform shoes. Like they're just so high off the ground because there's like 2 inches of foam, which makes your joints feel great when you're running, but trying to balance on that can be a little tough. But you didn't have any issues with it.
Maybe just the broad jumps where you're landing a little funny on these like sponges.
Yeah, right. How competitive did it feel for you during the race? Because again, I know why you went it and I know why you did it, but there's an element to you passed this person, that person passed you. Were you like looking at people's screens at all? Like, were you trying to catch up to people? Did you have any thoughts of people passing you? Because you do start with a group of guys.
Yeah, they put you in like a pen.
Yeah,
cool.
that was really cool.
Sizing other people up, but you know, it's almost they try to make it like a religious experience in terms of like close your eyes, breathe in. You know, it was a little.
I didn't love that.
Yeah.
But were there any guys in there? Like, did it get a little? I'm not saying you were trying to beat people, but did it add some fuel to add some intensity to the race overall?
Yeah, I mean a little bit. So you're definitely sizing people up.
Yeah,
and there's a few alphas that are like puffing their chests out and like pushing their way to the front of the line, like
the headband wire thing, eye blast.
But you're sort of clumped with a group of people, and you're keeping an eye on the foot, like just like you are here, right? You're competitive. Absolutely. Again, there were some people that got a little bit ahead of me. I thought I caught up to.
What was cool is those first like 2 or 3 stations, right? The ski, the sled push, sled pull.
Yeah.
The slower people from the previous heats, they're gone by then. So when you get to the ski and you get to the sled, you kind of know where you stack up within that heat. Not that it matters that much because there's so many heats within your division, but I thought that was a cool component to it that like when I did it with my brother, we were like the second ones to the ski and like the first ones off the sled. And then it just, you kind of lose track of that because of, you start catching up to the previous heats.
Yeah. I mean, there was a yoke guy in my group and, he was ahead. I sort of caught up to him towards the end, hands on his knees for the wall balls. I was like 30 wall balls at him, gave him a fist ball. Like, come on, man. Like, but like, it's like, I gotcha.
I knew I was going to get you the entire time. Those like the silent assassins in CrossFit workouts at Hyrox is like, you can be ahead of them the whole time. They know the entire time, like, I'm going to get you. And I'm just going to put a smile and give you that pitiful fist pound out to you. The logistics of the event, right? They put you in that pen. They have that countdown from, I think, all the way down from 10 minutes up until leading up to your heat. They have a hype person. Were you impressed logistically how well that was run? Because they had tens of thousands of people pumping through there in 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, even just like the technology and having like the band around your ankle and knowing like, oh, I'm on lap 2 and like I go to this workout next. And like, that's what I think was concerned about is like you had to run through the in thing every time. And like
on the third time,
look, I forget, how many reps I'm on, 14 or 16 reps most of the time.
All the time.
It actually was pretty easy. There was a big leaderboard, your ankle would, your name would be up there and it would say, Dan Greenberg, lap 2, workout 6 is the next one.
Yeah.
So made it easy.
That's cool. The server was down during our race. So the entire race, I would run by the name board and it said Adam and Dave, lap 1. We're like 45 minutes into the thing of the first run. And I'm like, oh, this thing is not registering, but it ended up being okay. Any fears going into it, whether it be injury, whether it be just not knowing what you were doing, were there any fears that you had going in, or if there was, just what was the biggest one and what ended up happening to that fear?
It's weird. I mean, no fear.
It was awesome.
It's like the analogy I would use is like first time playing golf for the season. You low expectations. Yep. Like you actually probably play better most of the times when you go in like that.
Yeah,
there are things I would definitely train for more, doing it again. But like, look, you're
a pretty relaxed, like even tempered dude in general, though, and I think that's a big part of signing up for a competition is like you can stay relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to work with Rafi, right? Your mindset's in a good spot. What are those things? Like, what would you have trained more? I mean, we talked about the sled, the push, and the pull, but was there anything run-based that you would train more? Like, would you train? I asked the girls this, and there's no right or wrong answer. Would you train the running more to improve your speed, or train the run more so that you can be a little bit more consistent than you were?
Yeah, I mean, I don't run that fast. I think what helps me, going back to the earlier, like squatting, I got tight hamstrings.
Yeah,
so you kind of get the stretch reflex for that. I think that actually hurts me on longer distance because you're not getting as long of a stride.
Yep,
And you're short
absolutely.
stepping it.
You're short.
So yeah, I would probably work more on like flexibility and trying to like improve my running, like, because that's where you're going to make up a difference. Like if you're running a 6-minute mile pace versus an 8-minute mile pace, like you do that 8 times, like do the mile, like that's where you're going to make up your time. And
you're not going to get that much faster at the stations. You're not going to like row a minute 20 faster or anything like that.
Like what's a good 1,000-meter pace around here? Is it like 150 for guys?
Yeah.
People are running like rowing 220 pace.
Yeah.
It's such a small component versus, being able to pick up some time on the runs.
Yep. Did you like the schedule of it and logistics of, because you've done CrossFit competitions before, right? And one thing I don't love about the local CrossFit comp scene is sometimes it's like a 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. commitment. Like you're just gone out 10 hours, or you work out for 12 minutes, you wait for 2 hours. This is a really efficient, and I do think that matters for working professionals that have families. Like you can't it's harder for you to disappear all day. Were you impressed with that side of the operation, like the check-in process, where you could sit and how quickly you were actually done?
That part was great, and I think I lucked out just based. They break up the starting times based on the race you're doing, whether it's core or pro,
right?
Singles, doubles, relay, men, women. And so I was 8 a.m. on Friday. It was like, I think it was the third heat. It's not far off of like what I would normally do from Bison. I'd work 6 or 7 a.m. workout.
And you signed up specifically for Friday, right?
Signed up for Friday. So I've got, my wife works full time. I got 2 kids. So like, what's gonna be the least bothersome to the rest of my family? So Friday, like I took off work. Friday was like,
vacation day. So that's a big part. I always want to tell people, I think this is the 3rd time I'm talking about it on the HerdFit podcast, is when you sign up for this thing, you don't have a lot of control of heat times and stuff, right? I mean, you could sign up for specific divisions, and specific divisions like the men's pro individual, for example, they're usually later in the day. When Ashley and Karen were going, I think their first heat was like 5:45 at night. And
it's totally different.
It's a totally different commitment, totally different nutrition and hydration leading up to. Like you have to eat throughout the day, which I don't love doing. You got to do it like you normally do, because Dan's a morning workout guy here at Bison, and being able to do it anywhere somewhat close to your hours are huge. What was your favorite part of the day? Like what was the one thing, like if 5 months from now you're going to look back like, oh, that just made it a fun time? Like was there one thing that really kind of brought you to that place?
It was it was finishing.
Right.
Getting
that
like
last run,
doing that last run on the stage, getting the pat, you felt the sense of accomplishment finishing that. They hand you a non-alcoholic beer. So that's not what I needed. I needed something a little stronger, but, and then, we lived in Hoboken. We went to breakfast afterwards at Hoboken. Yeah, so like awesome. You can eat whatever you want.
Did your wife get to come in and watch? Nice. That's huge. That makes it a fun. It actually did. What was her feedback on watching it? Did she have fun watching it?
So I met her afterwards.
Okay.
She didn't go to the event.
So I want to start the spectator experience, because I brought Brock in to watch Ash, and last minute decision. I didn't even get the tickets until 2 days before, and it was like a lot of fun to watch, and it wasn't long. And I think if anyone ever wants to watch, especially with kids, bringing kids anywhere is risky, and I only have one. So, but it kind of made it interesting that, all right, they go to the station, and then about 5 to 6 minutes later, they're back at another station. So you have enough time to walk around. Brock and I made a game of it, saying like, all right, what station is she going to next? You got to go look for number 6, go look for number 7. And then you go to the track, you try to give them a high five on one of the laps. And I think it's a very spectator-friendly experience. And I don't know how into or how well-versed you are on the growth of Hyrox, like how much it's grown. My phone's recording right now, so I don't have the exact number, but the London race in 2021 was between 600 and 700 people in it on a one-day race, and they were done at 3 p.m. Okay, so just one day, 600 people-ish, okay? This year in London, 3-day race, and they have 40,000 people signed up in a 4-year run. I mean, the percentage growth of this thing is massive. They were on CNBC the other day. I don't know if you caught that interview. You're a business guy, a finance guy. Does your skill set, do you ever go into like, all right, this is growth, like this is what they need to do, this is what CrossFit could do? Do you ever go into that kind of analysis, or you just say, I'm just here for the experience, bro?
I mean, it's interesting, but yeah, it's a little bit. So I work more sort of on the public equity product side versus like private equity, where you're like going and ripping balance sheets apart,
Yeah.
to figure out like valuations, that kind of stuff.
Yes, but the growth of it. Can you compare this to CrossFit at all? Like, do you compare this to CrossFit or more the Spartan race? And I'm going to ask you why I'm asking that in a sec. But
People are asking me like, what is this? How would you? It's like kind of a Spartan race meets CrossFit.
Yeah.
It is a hybrid between the two.
Yep. Because I ask myself all the time, how big will this be? And I want more people from Bison doing this next year. Like, I really want us to push. We had about 22 signed up. I think 18 did it or 19 did it. But I think that number is going to be twice as high next year. And the debate I ask myself all the time is, will this be as big in 5 years? Because CrossFit has sustained a pretty big growth. I feel they flatlined a little bit, but that's still a pretty big program. Where to me, Spartan race, did you ever do a Spartan race?
No.
So they were like same thing. They like what's that? And people signing up. It was massive, and everyone was doing one. But then it's like, all right, I don't want to do that again. You know, like I don't want to do it a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time. I'm really curious to see. Can you compare? Do you have any thoughts on how long you think this craze, this fad, will last with Hyrox?
In some ways, I think it's a little less approachable than CrossFit. In some ways, more approachable.
Expand on
so
that.
they don't have like a scale. Like you're gonna run, even if you're doing it, you're gonna run 5 miles.
Yeah.
Right. If you do it
Or walk.
or walk, right? Versus Murph, there's like 1,000 ways you could break that up and
Right.
scale it. Do half Murphs,
Right.
you know, do whatever, kneel and push-ups. But it's lower skill and more grit.
Yep.
So you don't need to learn how to like Olympic lift. I was like with Mike W.
Right.
earlier. He's like, I've done overhead squat 3 times. By the way, he's like overhead squats better than I do after 11
He's
years.
got great mobility for a big beefy dude.
But yeah, like they're not things that you've never done before. Like there's not a lot of high skill movements like double unders, ring muscle ups,
Exactly.
handstand, like that kind
Right.
of stuff.
And like kidding aside, like I don't go into CrossFitters versus Hyrox. It's fun to talk about and debate, but I do question, like CrossFitters to me are fitter in that they have to do more things to get to the peak. But I wouldn't say they're better athletes or make more capable because the Hyrox, the elite Hyrox guys, like what they run and what they're able to do over and over is really impressive to me. But I question whether or not Hyrox should ever switch up some of the stations in time. Because like, let's say you do this 2 or 3 times and you're kind of like, all right, like been there, done that. But if they switch up 4 of the stations, that might pull you back in. And I wonder if there is a way for them to come up with maybe a few different versions of Hyrox or switch up 2 movements every 2 years, that kind of thing. And it's like something that you anticipate and you see, because it is a very different training regimen or competition than CrossFit, because CrossFit is the unknown and unknowable, right? Like you show up and you don't know what you're going to do. Hyrox is, you know exactly what you're doing. And at some point you've kind of hit that peak. Would you do another one, especially if they signed up, if they changed up 2 or 3 of the movements?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I'd probably do it single again. Probably would do it in New York. I don't really go out of state for it.
Yeah. And travel.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
It probably corresponds a little bit closer to like what you guys are doing at Outlast with like skiing, like the runners, rowing.
No Olympic lifting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the Outlast training, I wouldn't say it's for Hyrox, but I do think if I had to choose one, what is better to, like if you were like, hey, I'm doing Hyrox next year, Outlast probably gives you more bang for your buck because everything here can essentially be applied. Where like if we do squat snatch day, it's not as applicable to a Hyrox race. And you would say that about a lot of the workouts, especially with some of the higher skills, going upside down, going on the rig. So I do think Outlast, I would say the tie between an Outlast type program and Hyrox is that there's a lower barrier for entry. You can make it as hard as you want. You can make it as easy as you want, and there's a little less scaling options, you know, or the need for scaling, right? In Outlast type training, just like in Outlast, like you do a squat snatch at the gym, depending on who's there, you might need 6 options for someone. If you're coaching at Bison, if you need to scale a couple things here at Outlast, you basically have A, B, or C, and you go from there. So I do think the Outlast training, and we do longer workouts as well. That's something I don't know how often you trained it leading up to and how often you do this on your own. I mean, take the volume of running out, right? working out for an hour to an hour and a half straight is difficult.
Oh, it's hard. I don't
And
know if
you're just
you've
not
done
used to
one.
that.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, my inner Chris Hinshaw says, whatever time domain you're trying to train, you need to work out. You need to really work out at 2 to 2.5 that to get your peak. So that means, like, if you're trying to get to the elite level of Hyrox, you got to get used to working for 2 to 3 hours at a time. And that's who can do that?
I think I did maybe I was doing 800-meter runs instead of 1,000. I think I did 7 of those one Saturday, Sunday. It was I think even with marathon prepping, like there's a ramp up.
Yep.
Maybe you run 18 miles before you do the actual, 26. But yeah, I felt like I had enough. But towards the end, it starts to drag. And again, the best comp I can probably give is Murph, right?
Yep.
Like those can drag on.
They can.
And it gets tired and you want to walk sometime.
Yep. Now, would you, do you know right now if you can do this again?
Yeah, if it's in New York next year, I'm definitely doing it.
Would this be something you'd be like, you know what, it's like Murph, I'm just going to do this every year until I get sick of it kind of thing?
Yeah.
Would you ever do partner or no?
I would, if somebody wanted to do partner.
If it lined up schedule-wise.
Your date?
Oh, I was gonna put you with Alondra. Alondra is an athlete here at Bison she won the women's pro individual division, and the more I watch her, the more I respect. Just this girl just works out all day. And she's got a career as well, but in her free time, she's hiking, biking, crossfitting, lifting at different gyms. It's really impressive, and I think because she works out so much, like the volume in which she works out is incredible. That's a huge reason why she's so good at these races. Mm-hmm. Working out for an hour to hour 10 for her is just like, okay, that's what I do 3-4 days a week in addition to some other things. Where's your head out now? Now that it's over, is it like, hey, I want to see if I could train and push a little bit more? It's like, hey, I'll see you next year. I'm just going back do my thing.
I think this year is setting a baseline, and then you always want to be better than.
So you are going to try to get better at this next year.
For sure.
Okay.
And maybe I used golf earlier as an analogy, but like you play a course once, you don't really know it. Like we played it once, you start to learn some of the like, hey, I would do this differently.
Great analogy.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing it in Dallas and then doing it in New York this past week, I can say I had a much different experience in that the first time you're doing it, everything is new to you. It's just like, that's a great analogy with a new golf course. Like you just don't know where the dogleg is, where the trap is over here, what this green is like. But the second time going in, it was a lot, you just knew what to expect.
Right.
And that alone makes you faster. Mm-hmm. And then again, if you run 5 seconds faster per lap, like that alone is going to take 1-2 minutes off your time. So I think that's a really cool thing to do twice, to try to beat your time. Does this change anything about your perception of programming? Like, do you ever want to bias yourself more towards this, like more inclusive, not as mobility based, it's not as high skill? Like, could you see yourself doing more of this programming and less of the CrossFit stuff? Or you're like, no, I want that balance of back and forth.
I think the balance is right.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of different things, and this is what fits me right now.
Right.
And something changes,
Do you do this to keep your head spinning, keep yourself motivated? You're a very intrinsically motivated guy. I don't think you need extra motivation, but do you, for the people out there that are kind of on the fence, what does signing up for something like this do to you just to kind of keep you in the game a little bit more?
I think it's a challenge, right? Like, why do you wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning to like do a hard work? It's not because,
right.
I think there's something said about the hardest thing you do all day is the first thing you do all day.
Yeah.
And so putting this out there, it's going to be a long struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a sense of satisfaction that you did this at the end.
Yep.
Again, going out to brunch and having 2 brunches is a nice perk. That's like, reward yourself.
Were you thinking about it during the race? Because sometimes I do it.
Yeah, no, I had 2 things picked out.
Nice. Get that brunch ready for me. That makes you run a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts on any advice. If you had a group of people sitting in front of you right now that they don't sign up for much stuff. They don't, the Bison Bowl, the Bison Brawl, our local competition, the local 5K. They don't sign up for stuff, but there's something in their head that's saying like, hey, like maybe you could do it too. Do you have any advice for them to kind of get them over the hump to say like, hey, just give it a shot?
I think this is different from like a local comp in a couple different ways, right? Local comps, usually shorter workouts, then it's like hurry up and wait. Right?
Yeah.
And you sit around, then you get to warm up again.
Yeah.
So I think this is probably more work, just, straight through.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what I would say is like the programming here, whether it's, Bison or Outlast, like this is what you need to train for this, and you totally got it. Like definitely get some miles in on the running.
Yeah.
But everything you need to prepare for this is like what you're doing every day.
Would you rather, this is different for everyone, but if you had to choose, would you rather put more effort into the aerobic side, the running side, being sustainable, or would you be like, hey, I think the strength is actually what really helped me at these stations, right? Because some of these people that are not as strong as you, those stations take everything out of them. Do you think there's a bias? Again, you have to be jack of all trades when you do stuff like this, but is there one that you think helps the other more than the other?
I think it's probably easier to be a better runner and then get some of the strength than vice versa.
Yeah. It takes longer to get strong.
But yeah. So, what I do, maybe what would I do differently?
If you had someone like just in front of you, he was like, hey, like, I'm not a great runner. Should I lift more or should I just try to get really good at running? Because at some point you don't want to turn this into, I can't run anymore. Like,
right.
and that could come from, hey, I'm just not aerobically driven, or I'm using so much ammo on these stations. If you feel like it's more like, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think the strength component to Hyrox is overlooked.
Yeah.
And I saw this when I was watching the elite men go.
Okay.
During Ashley's race, the pro men individuals are going, and I just got used to watching, Ashley's group is all women in doubles. So just so many women run together and they're laughing, they're on the matching outfits and they're having a good time. All of a sudden, like these guys are just like sprinting. But one thing I noticed about them, like most, if not all of them, like they bench press. Like they're like, some of them are pretty yoked, like pretty big dudes. And then it makes sense to me because I did the open division. You did the open division, right?
Open.
Now imagine the weights were tougher, probably wouldn't slow you down that much. And, but that takes a lot out of you unless you're strong. And CrossFitters love to make fun of Hyrox because they're not strong. But I'll tell you what, maybe they can't snatch and they can't clean, but they're not weak dudes.
I maybe came in a little complacent. I'm like, I'm not going to win any running races, but, these like tall, skinny twins. Like,
and there are a lot of them there. A lot of tall.
I'm like, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you on the sled push. I squat. I was a little humbled that how fit, you don't need to do CrossFit to be super fit.
Right.
Like whatever these people were doing.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of them do CrossFit or F45 or something like that. But again, I don't want people to overlook the strength component to being, an improved Hyrox athlete. Let's say for the 20 people that are doing Hyrox next year, like, yes, I know, run this, split this, but if you get stronger, I think it takes less juice out of you for your run. So I think you have to really do focus in on strength. And I've watched some of these elite guys and girls on Instagram, like they lift. They lift a lot of weights. They don't move well and they don't snatch, they don't clean, they don't do toes bar and muscle ups, but they're strong athletes. And I think that means a lot for anyone that is on the fence of doing this. If you think you're strong but not a good runner, it's okay, because I think you can bounce that out over time. Dan, any closing thoughts on Hyrox NYC 2025? Will you ever do the pro division? Is that something that's in your scope? It's a whole different time commitment, by the way. Or it's like, hey, I like having this as a, just one per year kind of Murph type thing for me.
I think the first person in the open division is 30 minutes ahead of you time wise. I think a little humility. I'm probably gonna stick in the core division unless maybe as a partner you could do pro, but
it's probably not necessary to do pro. It's just not. It's not going to make you feel better because you did it, right?
Yeah, it's close to an hour and a half. It's like, do I need more work? I'm probably pretty good.
And we say this all the time here at Bison: is you don't always need to pursue level 1 or pursue RX. You can simply just do your shit faster.
Yeah, and those 14-pound wall balls are real nice.
That were. Did you do yesterday's Bison workout? The wall ball sumo burpee.
Yeah, it felt a little heavier.
The ball felt so heavy. I was like, I'm never using a 14-pound ball again. All right, well, Dan, thanks for the time. Busy guy here on a weekend, and he already worked out and came back and did this interview with us. Really appreciative of your time, and definitely gonna try to have you back on, talk about some of the other things, maybe with you and Matt, talk about that injury and talk about how you bounce back, because what you're doing right now, I'm really impressed by.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.